We had a Parisian launch, which I unfortunately missed, so this is new for me and very excited to be here. So, as with most great things in life, this project came about completely by happenstance, and I had the pleasure of meeting Matt at dinner in Venice Beach, which unsurprisingly became a location of many of the photos and videos that you guys are going to see here today. And he graciously invited me to join him on creating this project, which I said thank you, but thank you again. This book has been a year-long journey of revisions and just stress, everything, but we were so happy to finally be here launching it with you guys. And one thing we want to note is that tonight, all of the sales of books, as well as the prints that you guys see around, proceeds are going to be going to Safe Place for Youth in Venice, which is a charity that promotes cultural programming and a safe place for kids who are in Venice to go and homeless kids in Venice. Yeah, so we'll be doing that, and without further ado, Matthew Brookes and one of our subjects, Sam Mallos, who is a surfer who's profiled in the book as well. So.
Thanks so much for everybody for coming. So great to see so many familiar faces in the audience. Where's Kandai? Oh, Kandai, come forward, come sit. We've got a few of the surfers here in the audience here. So we've got Kandai, we've got Mary over here. Come sit.
Save from.
Yeah. So you want to start?
Thank you to Mary and Kandai, who are two of our subjects as well, who made the trip from California, as well as Sam.
I drove.
You drove.
Yeah.
I hope that went really well. So, for those who don't know, I'll ask you, Matt, who is Matthew Brookes?
Well, I was born in England, grew up in South Africa, and started photography at about the age of 27. I was on the coast of South Africa when I went to high school, so I grew up in a surf town in South Africa. So I was familiar with the surf community, but I was never really part of it because I was a tennis player as a kid. So yeah, and then I moved to Paris about 20 years ago, and I've been living in New York, between New York and Paris for the last 10 years. So yeah, I'm kind of a local, but not.
Matt definitely found his way into being a local in Venice, which is not an easy thing to do necessarily, but he ingratiated himself in the community very quickly. And on that note, Venice is a long way from Paris.
Yeah.
How did you wind up deciding to make that
Well,
move?
I was kind of stuck in South Africa at the time. It was been 20.
Excuse me, could you put the mic to your mouth?
Up there.
So sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little
Okay.
It's really, I'm trying to understand things.
Well, I moved from South Africa to Venice 2021. The borders between South Africa and Europe closed very dramatically, so the only place that was open was California, so I just landed there by accident. And my friends, normally I would stay in West Hollywood, my friends were saying to me, you should go stay on the beach in Hollywood, and I think you'd probably enjoy it more, especially during the lockdown situation. So I ended up in Venice, and it was an incredible experience. It was something I didn't expect to find.
Amazing. Well, we're very happy you made the move, obviously. And
I mean, we met by accident. We met at a pizza place.
Unreal. And with that,
I mean, there's always those accidental happenings that happen in Venice, right? I mean, where people end up meeting each other as all kind of
Absolutely.
friends.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, that's also not far off from how you met Sam.
Yeah, sure. I was introduced to Sam in Venice, and I was doing a personal project in Venice at the time.
Sam, if you guys don't know, is the pretty one sitting between us, and he's also the one playing the guitar behind us. And Sam is also a lifelong surfer, snowboarder. He's worked as a deckhand for 10 plus years, and Sam now often posts free climbing escapades with no rope on the side of PCH, which Matt and I often talk about how
Well,
fearful that
I
makes
was in
us.
Venice the last time I did that, and that was pretty scary. I was fearful.
But Sam was the first subject of Into the Wild, and Sam also kind of lives the epitome of this here now, gone tomorrow lifestyle that is often pictured in the book. So it's fitting that he was the first subject. And how did you guys officially wind up meeting? Because I feel like that's the genesis of the whole project.
We were introduced in Venice, and then we started to engage. But you came to my place, and he came in his van, and I saw the whole getup that he had in his van, which was the mattress and the surfboards and the skateboards and everything. And I was like, wow, do you travel out of your van, or what is the deal with your van? And he said, no, I live out of my van. And I was like, and that's like a thing in Venice, right? I mean, that's a thing with the surfers, right?
Yeah, that's what we do. We live in our vans and catch some waves as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, so that's
pumping California right now.
you guys are like itching to get back.
Yeah, not that anyone asked, but Sam flew in, and Sam is also on a flight out tomorrow back to Santa Cruz to
Yeah, the waves are really good.
But yeah, me and Sam started taking pictures together, and I took pictures in your van, and I was completely fascinated by your lifestyle. And then I said to Sam after the shoot, I don't know, if you see this picture here, it's like the first picture I took of Sam in the back of his van. And then I said to Sam, can you introduce me to more of your friends that are also surfers with their own vans? And that's how it started. And it happened really organically. You know? It's amazing. Everybody was very open to being photographed.
And so, Sam being the first one, at what point did you realize that there was enough material here to kind of create a large scale project like this? Because obviously shooting one surfer as pretty as Sam is, not enough for a full yeah.
Well, actually it was. in the end, I mean, you came around to my place in Venice, right? I mean, I eventually had everything I was shooting, I was just like making prints and putting them on the floor, putting them on the, pasting a few on the walls, and eventually I had all the walls, all the floor, the ceiling, the refrigerator, everything, the whole place was covered from floor to ceiling, couldn't even walk because of pictures. And then you came, and I said, I've got this kind of book project you have to see, and I said, come to my place, and he thought it was like, come on. And I was like, no, you really have to come to my place. And then when he walked to the door, he's like, okay, now I understand why you were trying to get me to get
And with that, Sam, I think Matt had me come prior to his leaving Venice and going back to Paris 3 days in a row to edit photos because he shot so many fucking photos of these guys. It was unbelievable. And he was very stressed about what to put in the book. So when he says floor to ceiling, he is not at all exaggerating about that. But we got it done, thankfully. And a large part of why he shot so heavily into this is because vans have been a cultural staple in California for decades now, which obviously with pop cultural references of like bummy surfers in their vans, everyone's heard that. But but the goal here was to tell kind of the most honest possible story of these 11 subjects, and hopefully we did achieve that. Something we really want to drive home is that this is not, the idea here was never to kind of display the van life that people are seeing on Instagram, or that new kind of like, oh, like I'm working from home and I have a $100,000 Sprinter and I'm gonna travel the country. This is not to say rough and tumble, but a very real vein, kind of a subcultural living within California that, again, we hope we kind of displayed in the most honest possible fashion. With that, I want to ask Sam, because there's kind of this disposition between the people that are occupying their vans because they want to and facilitates their lifestyle, or those who do so just on a whim because it's fun. So Sam travels up and down the country or the coastline of California almost more than anyone I know. What kind of would you say is the ideas amongst you and your friends towards those who do this kind of just for fun, or just because the pandemic happened, they can finally work from a hotspot?
Yeah, so I mean, being like a beach bum, quote unquote, or whatever you might want to call it, kind of means living a minimalist lifestyle as much as possible, and just having the bare bones necessities needed to get to the water and get to where the waves are breaking, be it all the way up in Santa Cruz or down in Mexico. So living in your van or in your car gives you the quickest, easiest access to that spot. So we're not homeless by any means. We do it fully voluntarily. It's a sacrifice that we make to like live our best lives. So yeah.
And then for you, Matt, your first book, for those who don't know, was depicting the ballet dancers of the Paris Opera Ballet, which I think it's safe to say that could not be further contrasted from what we have going on today. So what was it like for you diving into this subject matter, which is obviously completely different?
I kind of just fell in love with Venice, like it was just such a gritty, incredible place. And I wanted to reflect that, what I was going through at the time. And also, I wanted to have like a diary of that. And when I started with a personal project to take pictures of the Venice locals, which were like surfers, skaters and everything. And it just went from there. I mean, in the end, I just wanted to reflect the grittiness of Venice and the beauty in that grittiness. So when this finally turned into a book project, it was more about photographing that side of the surf community, which was that I've seen it so many times in photographing Chris Webber has done it so beautifully, and many other people that have photographed the surf community in such a nice way. But I just wanted to create I saw a different angle to this, which is more of the grittiness and kind of urban, almost skater kind of version of a surfer kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have talked about that a lot. I mean, the west side of LA was the place where skating and surfing kind of melded for the first time, and skateboarding came from surfing very directly in that. So, I mean, you planted yourself in a perfect location, and I would also say at the perfect time, because a lot of the people that are in Into the Wild actually wound up buying their vans with unemployment checks resulting from the pandemic, which is a tenuous idea for many, especially with this crowd being from Manhattan. But I mean, these guys, the rents were interesting, and these guys, a lot of people lost their jobs. I mean, if you had an $11,000, $12,000 check, rather than paying the man, quote unquote, you could pretty much live a free existence through doing this. So on that note, I want to ask Sam, at what point kind of did you feel that tipping point amongst you and your friends? And then also, what changes did you notice? Because Sam was doing this before COVID happened, but he maintained traveling all throughout California once the pandemic hit. So did you notice anything different?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic was a bit of a blessing in disguise. The gas prices were really low. I was able to put a lot more miles on my car than would be able to otherwise. Also, everyone was inside, so you were able to have a little bit of a different experience being outside. I ended up traveling to Paris at the time, and it was like a really local experience because there wasn't so much tourism going on. Also, in Los Angeles and Malibu, like they closed all the beaches during COVID, so we were like running away from police just to try and get in the water and like kicking down fences.
How was that?
It was like a bit of a surf revolution.
Yeah.
It was kind of like back in the 90s in the punk days.
And there's a famous photo of a surfer. I'll never forget. I was watching the cam, as many surfers do, try to see if the waves are good, and all the beaches were closed. There was one guy out there, and we were like, oh fuck, this guy has the best day ever ahead of him. And then 45 minutes later, everything's popping up on social media, and he's getting marched up the beach in First Point, Malibu, cuffed with cops carrying his board. So it's like, it was very much a different time.
They banned surfing.
Thankfully, we've emerged from that.
They pretty much banned surfing. Like no one was allowed to get in the water, or much less be outside at all. It was a difficult time for us. You saw the sticker I got on the back of my car.
What's the sticker again?
Yeah, the sticker. Well, our governor's Gavin Newsom, and I got a sticker that says "Gavin don't surf" because he took that from us.
Which leads us to the topic of these vans very much being a vessel of self-expression. Just like with a house or any space that people occupy, things are going to add and change over time. Mary is with us, and Matt also is created Into the Wild as a film project. So we have a 30-minute documentary that will be coming out closer to the end of the summer when we do some more events in LA. But we wanted to show a clip of Mary's bus here today because out of all of the vans, which are all phenomenal, there is probably no more direct representation of the personality than the inside of Mary's bus, which I hope you guys are about to see.
People just started calling me Fairy Mary, I guess, because I'm kind of a tricky chick. So I just thought, I always kind of dreamed about van life and dreamed about, the California van life, and I always thought it would be something so, so awesome. And then I would just think on it more and more, and it's like, yeah, it sounds so awesome, but it's like, am I just gonna keep thinking about it, or am I just gonna one day just do it, And I just felt I was the prime age, being 23, I guess, at the time when I moved in, and it's like, I feel like these are like my prime youthful years to be able to, be even like fit enough, and stuff like that, to be able to live in a bus and take care of myself and do these things. So, and I'm really proud because I feel like I needed to have this experience of buying the bus myself and meeting with like mechanic men by myself, not with a guy or a boyfriend or something like that, to develop being a young woman, I guess, and the independence and all of the good pieces that come with bus life, There's a lot of hard factors, but I feel like the lessons that I've learned have outweighed anything in the bus, and it's all been worth it. I feel like I'm kind of a collector type person, so I think objects hold a lot of energy, and so when I have different objects from different places around the world, I feel like it keeps that energy in my bus.
And so, there's going to be 2 more of those guys. You don't have to pop after everyone. Not to put Mary on blast here, but one very interesting thing I learned through interviewing Mary is that this bus is a 1979 bus from Oregon, which was used by YMCA summer camp to drive kids to and from camp every day. So this bus is a 45-year lifespan, and it's probably gone through many iterations of whole different lives before Mary has wound up occupying it, which leads us to what you saw behind us. Mary is a self-proclaimed collector of many items, posters, crystals. She has a 18-inch Bowie knife tucked in the top, which for defense, which was an interesting revelation for me. But on that note, I feel like the themes of self-reflection on the interiors of all of these vans are present throughout all of the subjects, right?
I found the vans were kind of a direct reflection of their personalities, and it was really interesting to see how the vans were decorated in different ways and what the guys found important to take along with them. Everything from having a vinyl record player to kind of boxing down with something very, very basic. So yeah, it was really a reflection of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and things you just find on the road. I mean, like, you can fill your dashboard up with like this, that, and the other little pieces of sage or shells from different beaches you go to up and down the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of us surf funds have dashboards just filled with little trinkets.
Yeah.
And
Especially yours, Mary, right?
And with that, obviously, a very common theme between most of these is surfboards and other things to facilitate actual surfing, because this isn't just for fun, right? So we're going to show a clip of Josh Perez, who unfortunately can't be here with us today, but Josh is a Malibu local and surfs almost every good summer Southswell. He is a very talented surfer in his own right, and Josh will be speaking to kind of the more historical context of vans and Californian surfers being intertwined for many decades.
Yeah. I think people have been camping in vehicles in general and like surfing and doing that whole thing literally since like the 30s. Like whether or not it was these crazy old cars that just had a ton of room in them in the trunks that they could literally just sleep in them and travel in them down to Baja and stuff. But that's just whole experience in general. Like people had vans all through the 60s and 70s, and I think that's like kind of like quintessential thing is like having enough room for surfboards, having like a bed in the back to sleep so you don't have to worry about where you're crashing and you can just wake up in the morning and get the best waves of your life or something. And yeah, so I just was like, wow, like all my friends are getting them, I literally need to have one. Like
We probably wouldn't have hung out if it wasn't for surfing.
I would say surfing.
So, sorry about that. Josh kind of, like I said, speaks to the surf lifestyle and Vans being intertwined for so long, to the point where, I mean, the Volkswagen pop top was the predominantly purchased cars amongst surfers for many, many years in the 50s and 60s. And that's kind of that whole classic orientation of people still desiring those cars and associating themselves with that lifestyle. Whereas Mary goes more towards self-reflection, Josh, I think, speaks to more utilitarianism of these as an actual vessel to achieve the overall lifestyle that everyone's kind of shooting for, yeah? So surfing is obviously a common theme throughout all the characters here. What's very interesting is that Matt had not fully experienced surfing prior to this. So for you, what was it like kind of throwing yourself headfirst into one of the most vivacious ecosystems of this culture, I guess you could say?
Well, I mean, to be honest, when I was at school with surfers, they were like very kind of, they kept to themselves, and if you weren't a surfer, then you weren't kind of included or anything. But when, luckily, Sam introduced me to his friends, and I think when they see you get on with their friends, or they see you talking to their friends, and they're accepted by their friends, it's like it goes organically from one to the
Once
next.
you're part of the group, you're part of the family.
And you're like a big state person in the lot, so yeah, it just became very organic, and everybody's really, really open to open their world to me. So I was really lucky, I was really appreciative of that.
Was it what you expected, would you say?
It was a lot warmer than I expected. The welcome was a lot warmer, and it was nice to kind of get a call at like midnight the night before and say, this role's good tomorrow. Do you want to come pick you up? That kind of thing. And often it was great.
Definitely.
Yeah, I felt included. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so you guys know, it absolutely is not always this way. Sam can attest to this, but there is a very legendary surfer. I will obscure his name here for his own sake, but he's been surfing Mallos since the early 70s, and he has not stopped. He is 65 years old plus. He is still probably the best surfer out there, and not to drop in on him, because I've seen time and time again, you take a wave on him and he will come up and beat the living shit out of you, for lack of a better term. So this warm kind of opening is also an important moment in time to recognize for this project, because back in the day, before California, before PCH was even built, it was these spots were sacred, and you were not welcome unless you were already in the fold. So speaking to that warmness, we're going to show a couple clips that highlight surfing as kind of a connector between many of the subjects here, because we have a couple as well as a father and son that are subjects for Into the Wild. So, and surfing has played a big role, if not the predominant role, in the forging of their relationships.
yeah.
We probably wouldn't have hung out if it wasn't for surfing.
I would say surfing brought us together as well with friends, having the similar friend group, and being able to go on trips and surf and
For sure.
go wherever, and surfing's always involved, and
Yeah, it's like the backbone of our relationship. Definitely the foundation.
You guys met on the beach.
right,
We met here.
we did meet here, like actually right here where we're sitting. whenever I see Casey going down the wave and he's just killing it, I get so happy inside. I'm always like, yeah, John! And I just know that we'll have a great rest of the day and everyone's gonna be in bed mood. Malibu is wonderful. It's a nice place to come back to and revisit old people that you haven't seen in a while. I think I call it like a bubble where it's just like you kind of get sucked in it and you kind of don't want to leave, and then when you do leave you're like, whoa, I forgot that there's a whole another world out there.
Time warp.
Yeah.
It's just like a classic place to get some like really good waves. If you're not surfing, you can watch someone surf, catch like super sick rides. So
I came here around when I was like 15 years old, and it was just not many people like that hung out when everyone kind of started coming to Malibu. It was like party in the lot all night and then surf, camp out. We'd camp out here for like 2 weeks at a time, and people would get angry at us. I think we got put in a magazine of like tents being put up in this parking lot, and
rats.
yeah, they'd call us lot rats. And yeah, the older generation didn't like us at first, and then they kind of saw us like bringing logging back and how we could all like, I don't know, just be friends, and everyone was at like shortboarding or all logging, and it was just a new like community that was coming around, and I think everyone ended up loving us.
So surfing has brought us so freaking close. Like I really can't describe it. And then I moved back and kind of wanted to give my dad a chance. Surfing was a very good version of that, and yeah, it brought us very close.
It was a good version of that. It was probably the only version that I could think of that would work.
Yeah.
we're two humans. It's not father son, it's not anything else. It's just we're surfing and we're having a good time and we're enjoying the relationship that we have now as friends.
And so there you guys saw Summer and Casey and Zion and Ian. Zion and Ian are locals at Malibu and are there surfing almost every swell as well. Malibu, just as much as Venice, if not more, played host to kind of a lot of the connections that we made both with the subjects as well as the subjects amongst each other. I'm referring to you as if I don't know you like subjects. You guys are all friends, and Malibu is the best wave by far in Los Angeles. So
It's for longboarding, right?
for a specific type of surfing, but it is very much the most packed wave. You guys, if you've ever had lunch on the Malibu Pier while visiting LA, you've seen it.
I mean, how many people would you think are in the sea? Like
250 plus on a bus.
At the same
spot.
time.
Yeah, there's a couple
Yeah.
hundred people for sure.
It turns into a shit show without a doubt. But
And
it
everyone's on top
also
of each other.
it's both a physical and metaphorical amphitheater for everything that we're depicting here, as well as the best surfing that you can possibly see on the west side of LA. And you spend a lot of time there, yeah?
Yeah, it's like the red carpet of longboarding. Yeah. I mean, it really helps to like know who's out in the water and things like that, because the people who share that spot and live there, all like we're all like a tight knit community and like a family, so we've got each other's back. And when outsiders, maybe say people from other areas come, you can see right away that like they're not from there, they don't know what they're doing, they don't surf the wave every day. So yeah, like we've all got each other's backs, and like that's why, like Matthew said, yeah, it's like a family atmosphere. Like you have to be brought in by someone who's been there for years to really get the full experience.
And speaking to that point of family, something that I've experienced surfing here in New York as well as California, and I know you've experienced too, Sam, is kind of the cross-generational factor that surfing can play. It's not just your friends with people of the same age, it's not people of the same creed, it's really kind of an open forum in terms of like, if you love surfing, you're going to connect with other people that love surfing as well.
Yeah, well, all ages, like most of like the most legendary surfers from back in the day, or from the 60s and 70s, they're all pushing 80 nowadays. And they're still there. Those are some of the people that I respect the most. They have like the best stories to tell.
yeah, unbelievable. And the photo behind me depicts kind of the wall at Malibu, which is on a good day lined with surfboards, exactly like you'll see here, even more. And everyone, you can surf all day, right? So you set up your umbrella there, and it becomes kind of the peanut gallery of good surfing. So if you get compliments from the guys sitting there, like, you know, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah.
One thing that we kind of wanted to dispel in this talk is the idea that these guys are quote unquote surf bums. That was initially included kind of in the intro for the book. And I wanted to kind of ask Sam directly, what would you say to people who refer to you as that?
I mean, surf bums I accept it. Like, it's a good title to have. Like I said earlier, like, we just make sacrifices to put ourselves in the position of catching the best wave. Like, when the waves are gone, we're gone to wherever they're at. Yeah, being a surf bum, like, we're not homeless. Like, we've got money, we've got jobs, like, enough to eat and like enough to satisfy our like necessities. That's all we need: food, water, waves, and
Mary's just bought herself a boat. Mary's just bought herself a boat.
yeah.
So she's going to be traveling in a different way right now.
Yeah. Now Mary's got a boat, so she can get out to the Channel Islands and whatnot. She'll be sailing over to Hawaii soon.
Unreal. And Matt, for you, what was ultimately like the message you were trying to promote here, and what would you say to those who are judging this obviously alternative lifestyle?
I would just say in the end, it's about celebration, the celebration of life. And I think that's the thing that really came home to me about photographing these kids. They were all extremely happy, and they were all free-spirited, and they were not desperate, and they chose a different lifestyle. And I thought it was a very interesting subject to tackle in this time. It's definitely a book of the times, I think.
I would agree, and again, thank you for inviting me on the journey to do this. So with that, we'll open it up, of course, and we'll open it up to some questions if people have any. Q&A. Ms. Dano?
So I have a question. I haven't opened the book yet, but I plan to buy one. And I'm just curious about the role of the writing in the book. Obviously, the pictures are painting stories, and that's obvious from what we've seen. But I'm just curious what the role of the writing was in the book.
I think you can answer that, even though
I started every interview in the book with telling each person who I have now become very friendly with, saying there's absolutely no agenda here, and with the goal of them telling their story in the most open and honest way possible for them. So I worked as a surf journalist for a magazine for a long time with brand sponsored posts and a lot of bullshit, and this was a welcome departure from that kind of vein of storytelling, and this is really just about giving these guys and girls a platform to be themselves and share their stories with the world. So hopefully that did come across in it. I really don't know. This is my first time doing this. If you guys can get that yet, but and yeah, I mean, and again, the book would not be what it is without Matt and his photos, which anchor the storytelling in every way. So.
But I would say that it's necessary. It's still necessary to have the interviews as well, because that really gives you a 360-degree vision of what the world of the surfers is about. You know, before, if you don't have the interviews, then you don't meet the guys really, and you just see surfers in their cars and you're like, oh, what's that about? You know, it's not widely known. So it was great to be able to have everybody tell their story, and for people to kind of have an imprint of their personality behind the pictures.
It was your first interview, yeah, Sam?
Yeah, it was my first interview. Yeah. First time I've been interviewed. Yeah, just telling our general story, like what we like to do. Like, we all follow our passion and like live this life because it's what we're passionate about, and honestly wouldn't do it any other way. Like, a 9 to 5 isn't our walk of life, but we still make the most of it, and definitely wouldn't do anything else otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How did you pick the title?
It's kind of there was these three actual skaters that like parked their bus outside my place in Venice Beach, and they were completely hooked on moving into the wild. And I started traveling around with them. You know, it was the book was initially supposed to be a skater and a surfer book because these guys would they traveled across America to be into the wild, and they took me on a few trips. And then, you know, in the end, we made the book about surfing, and there's going to be another one about skating. But they were the ones that gave me the idea, and their spirit just rung so true to that title. So I thought, okay, this is what it's all about. Actually, Venice Beach is all about being into the wild.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
What type of jobs do you do to earn money?
I do a little bit of everything. During the wintertime, I work as a professional snowboarder. I get paid to drive snowcats. I groom and ride a snowboard 8 hours a day. During the summertime, I'm a deckhand professionally. I also shape surfboards. I have a surfboard shaping factory down in Newport Beach, California. And currently, I'm a bartender at the Surfrider Hotel, right steps from Malibu Beach. Yeah.
And Sam hates that because he has to stare at perfect waves all day.
Yeah, it's one of the most miserable jobs in the world. I'm bartending on a rooftop watching my favorite wave in the world 8 hours a day. Anytime there's good waves, I threaten my boss that I'll quit.
Amazing. I think we'll wrap it at that, yeah.
I have one more thing to say besides thank you for coming. We're going to be selling the prints that are here for the charity Safe Place for Youth, and there's a little barcode and an explanation about the charity there. So anybody that's interested in buying a print, scan the barcode, and you're welcome to buy a print. Everything will go to charity. Thanks so much.
Please buy a book. If you want to get a book, if you're holding a display copy of the books, I'll sell you the book, and you can also get it at the register at the front of the counter. So either find me and I'll sell you one of the books in the room, or you can go up front and get the book. And then we're going to have the signing right back here. Please join us for that. Have some more wine. Have a wonderful night. Thank you all.